The mind governs the decisions that we make based upon the conversations that we hear, the observations that we make, the culture that we are part of. But the heart can't be programmed. And so getting still and listening to the whispering of your heart, that's where you really want to go.
Hello and welcome to the Real Success Show. I'm your host, Candice Mama. If you know that you have greatness within you and you just need that extra little push to unlock it, then today's guest is just for you. Les Brown is going to speak to you about how you can overcome any obstacle in your way. But before I jump into it, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so that more people will find us. Now, without further ado, here's the one and only Les Brown. Show. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's a plum-pleasing pleasure as well as a privilege.
Oh, Liz, I've been so looking forward to doing this interview with you because I want to ask you something. You are at this pinnacle of any career, and I want to know, when you think about your life and yourself, how do you define yourself to the world?
I'm glad you asked that question. I just finished going through a series of tests at Cancer Centers of America, and I received their award, Perseverance, as a 29-year cancer conqueror, fourth stage cancer. And when you go through a variety of tests of that nature, you're always asking yourself, has anything changed? Is the medication still working? And if I have more time, what am I going to do with that time? And how do I see myself? And the way that I define myself is I have made up my mind a long time ago that I'm going to live my life the way that I want to leave my life, serving people. I am who I am because somebody who saw something in me at a time when I was struggling to find something in myself of value, being in an oppressive culture that's designed to deny you, to demean you, to dismiss you, and to destroy your sense of self. And I was hungry and fighting for a bigger life, to take care of my mother, being adopted, becoming a foster kid, and then being adopted, and not accepting where I was. And I define myself as a person who's been restless with life as it was that I was born into, my circumstances. And a person who I've developed a hunger to want to help serve people, to give them a larger vision of themselves, to encourage them to know that they're bigger than anything that has happened to them, anything that they are facing or experiencing, and to consciously, relentlessly fight to live a life that's them. And that's who I am. I'm living a life that's me. And I'm a happy camper. To me, life is about laughing at yourself, being able to smile when you're by yourself, and laughing a lot. Because life to me is about laughing, loving, and living a life of contribution. And so when it's all said and done, I want people to say, you know what, that Les Brown, he was a piece of work, honey. He made me laugh. He made me feel good about myself. And he made me learn how to have the courage to live life on my terms. That's how I want people to see me.
I love that. And, laughing is such a trademark of who Les Brown is. You bring in these really incredible and inspiring messages, and you fill us with laughter and you make us smile. And Les, I want to know, before that time when someone came and believed in you, was this still your natural state? Would you still make jokes? Were you still laughing a lot? Or were you a different person then?
I was still laughing a lot. My personality is very much like my adopted mother. I just discovered, as you know, my birth mother. And I always say that my adopted mother and my birth mother, the difference was my birth mother gave me life. My adopted mother taught me how to live life. She had a tremendous sense of humor. And life was very challenging. We were poor, but we did not know it because we lived life through her eyes and through her vision of creating a life for us that indicated that we had the possibilities to overcome whatever was in our path. And so she always found something funny to laugh about. I remember a Mother's Day, I called my mother, my adopted mother, and she used to curse all the time. That was just who she was. And I said on Mother's Day, Mama, happy Mother's Day to you. And she said, thank you. And she lived in Miami, Florida at that time. I was in Columbus, Ohio. I said, how you doing today? And she said, Leslie, I'm sweating like a hoe in church. I said, Mama, I said, I'm on the air. She said, hell, well, when they're in church and the preacher's preaching, they are sweating. I said, Mama, don't explain it. And during this time, you couldn't delete what people said, and she wanted to go on and explain it. I said, Mama, you don't have to explain it for me. But that was my mother. And so she had a sense of humor. But she also taught me how to tell stories while my brothers and sisters had fun outside playing with each other. My adopted mother had ankles swollen from arthritis, and I would massage her ankles and her feet. I developed a foot fetish because of that, but that's another conversation. And so on, I would massage her feet. She would tell me stories, and I said, Mama, tell me that story again about when you would go down and feed an alligator chickens. And she said, Leslie, I've told you that story so many times. But the reason I had her to tell me stories over and over again, she told them the same way with the same excitement and sense of adventure. And I loved that, had no idea. You know, Candice, we live life going forward, but we understand it looking backwards. And she, by telling me these stories and how I listened, cultivated the ability in me to tell stories and not just tell them, but to experience them as she did when she told them. And I train speakers, as you know, and I teach them not just to present the story, but to experience the story. And I came into this industry, people just giving information from the book Think and Grow Rich. Information, if information could change people, everybody would be skinny, rich, and happy. They wouldn't need speakers. They could just Google the information. Information only impact two areas of the brain. But when you tell a story, like I tell the story about wanting to take care of my mother and buy her a home, which I accomplished, stories, it impacts 5 areas of the brain. Stories expand your vision because you go into your imagination, and it touches the heart, and we're emotional people, and it ignites a spirit to make a decision, to take your life in a different direction. We make decisions, and our decisions make us. And so when I look at who I am now and where I am, I always quote Abraham Lincoln. He said, all that I am and all that I ever hope to be, I owe to my mother. And that's why I always say, this has been Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy. But now that I've discovered my birth mother, Dorothy Rucker, I said, this has been Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy and Dorothy Rucker's pride and joy. Oh, behave, hello.
Wow, Liz, you emphasize storytelling and you've got such a poeticism about, your stories, how you tell a story and how on the spot you can do that. That kind of lyricism that you have. When did you start learning it? I know you said your mom taught you, but when you started incorporating it into your work, how did it start working in your mind?
What I came to realize, particularly when I saw the shift taking place in the motivational industry, where people wanted to speak to sell, and that didn't fit well with me. I'm who I am because someone looked at me when I was struggling to believe in myself, Mr. Leroy Washington, and he knew that I was called DT, the dumb twin, and he told me, someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. And he taught me three things because I've never known my biological father. He said, and he did not know I adopted him as my spiritual father. Three things that's very important. There's seven, but three that you really need to horn in on. And I said, what are they? He said, number one, develop your mind. He said, people don't live life as it is. They live life as they are. That grabbed me. Elsie Robinson said, things may happen around you and things may happen to you, but the only things that really count are the things that happen in you. The second thing that he said, develop a thirst to learn. If you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. But if you're willing to learn, no one can stop you. We are in a new place where our lives have been disrupted by a global pandemic. And so disruptions require transformation. Einstein said, the thinking that has brought me this far has created some problems that this thinking can't solve. So now we have to develop and upgrade our skill set, a new set of skills to help us to navigate where we are. And that transformation is an ongoing process. The other thing that he taught me was that practice OQP. And what he was saying was create a community of people that's going in the direction of where you're going, people that you can learn from, people that will challenge you to grow, that will hold you accountable, have praise and progress reports, build communities of collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive relationships with people that will challenge you to reach deep within yourself and to take you in a place in yourself that you can't go by yourself. People rub off on you. You earn within $2,000 to $3,000 of your closest friends. My mother said, Leslie, if you run around with 9 broke people, I guarantee you, you'll become number 10. So always look for ways in which you can upgrade your relationships, that you can learn from the people that's around you, the people that's in your ear, people that's going in the direction of where you're going, people that have goals and dreams. The Academy Award winner, Sidney Poitier, who passed last year, he said, when you go for a walk with someone, something happens without being spoken. He said, either you adjust to their pace or they adjust to your pace. Whose pace have you adjusted to? And so I come to understand and to know that life is like an elevator. The higher you go up, the more often you have to stop and let some people off because they stop growing. They stop pushing themselves and challenging themselves. And you want people that will bring out the best in you. You want people that would push you and stretch you and challenge you to reach higher. And so that's how I live my life, being around people that I'm learning from. Dennis Kimball out of Atlanta said, if you're the smartest one in your group, you need to get a new group. Those three things, your mindset, your willingness to learn, and the community of people that will push you to another level.
Oh, I love that. Les, you spoke about the elevator up and that it's going to have to stop and you're going to have to let people out. And for people who struggle letting people go, what advice do you have for them?
I believe in the one to a casket for philosophy. Most people go through life thinking they need certain people. You don't need anybody but God. You might want some people in your life, but you don't need them. And your success in life, your ability to have peace of mind, to minimize stress in your life, your ability to maximize your potential is determined by your being courageous enough to let some people go. There are people that will position themselves around you, and the reason is that they're getting more out of the relationship than you are. And you have got to have the courage to say, you got to go. And don't go away mad, just go. And sometimes you don't even know, Candice, how stressful, how debilitating, how dark some people's energy is until they're out of your life. And you say, whoa, case in point, someone that I've known for like 27 years. And I got to the point, I looked at our relationship. It was working real good for her, but it wasn't working for me. And so I said, I was practicing Operation Clean Slate, looking at people in my life that didn't bring value. And I said, we've gone as far as we can go. The next month, my income increased over $200,000 because people have energy, and that energy can be toxic or it can be positive. And I realized unconsciously, this person has been toxic. There are people that many times when we look at it, they're only there when they need you. But when you need them, you can't find them, or they don't bring any value to you. And what I found at 77, there's some people that just, they have an expiration date. There's some people in your life for a season, some for a reason, and some for a lifetime. And that's very few. And it takes courage to say, I love you, but this is not working for me. It's working for you, but it's not working for me. And you spend less time with them. That includes family members that are not good for you. This thing called life, I mean, I used to think, Candice, people in their 40s were old. Now I'm 77. I feel like I was a waiter at the Lord's Supper. I said, who does this? 77. Wow. Wow, 23 years, I'll be a century. And so my goal is to maximize my time. People say, manage your time. You can't manage time. All you can do is manage yourself. I saw a topic for a speech, and one of the points the guy made in the presentation, he said, master your kingdom. And that night, I woke up around 2:30 in the morning, and I have a pad by my bed. And I wrote down, master your kingdom. And then I said to myself, there can't be a kingdom without a king. And kings rule. Is that right? Why am I obese? Why am I dealing with high blood pressure? Why am I dealing with 4th stage cancer? Why am I dealing with heart disease? Because I've given up control of my kingdom. And when I became consciously aware of that and being mindful that we don't live life as it is, we live life as we are, and I'd given up control in my life, I was just floating through life, that I decided to take control of my life. I've lost over 30 pounds since you've known me. And I have reduced the medication that I'm on. And within 90 days, I'll be off all of the medication that I'm on and reversing high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes and kicking cancer's butt. It will not take me out. I will take it out. And so sometimes we have to stop and ask the question, is this me? What am I supposed to do with the time that I have left? And be consciously conscious of the behaviors, the habits that we create. Dennis Waitley said, we create habits and our habits create our lives. And so I had to reverse those habits that have not served me, because the kingdom of God is within you. And so getting still, going into the silence and governing my life and living my life from the inside out, rather than letting my life be programmed from the outside in.
Wow. Liz, you mentioned stillness, and I think as profound as that sentiment is, whether it be through meditation, being alone, society's created to distract us from the stillness. People are so busy running away from themselves, whether it's social media, television, Netflix, food, whatever it may be. And for those people who have an addiction to distraction and are so afraid of the stillness, what do you have to say?
You said something major. We spend most of our time running away from ourselves. We've been programmed and being programmed daily by algorithms, by the disruptions, by telephone. Most people look at their telephone over 400 times without even thinking. We be with family members and friends, and we spend more time looking at our telephone or reading our emails and our text messages rather than engaging each other. We have more instruments of communication and we're doing less communication. And so there's something we have to do. The reason that you're the person that you are is you made up your mind. I want something different for Candice. You made up your mind. I want to live my life differently. What I'm doing doesn't work for me. There's nothing, Candice, as powerful as a made-up mind. Be ye not conformed to this world, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. As a man thinketh, so is he. And as he continues to think, so he remains. But here's something that's major. As a man thinketh in his heart, the mind governs the decisions that we make based upon the conversations that we hear, the observations that we make, the culture that we are part of. But the heart can't be programmed. And so getting still and listening to the whispering of your heart, that's where you really want to go. The heart in the sanctuary of your soul, that's the silent mind that governs us and that can take us to places where the mind can't take us, because the mind, your conscious mind, has been programmed and is being programmed by our culture, by our history, by the things that we've seen and heard and experienced. but the heart, where your heart is, there your treasure is also. And you can only enter the heart and hear it, the still small voice within, the silent mind, going into the silence, spending time with yourself, understanding the value of being by yourself and tapping into the divine.
I love it, Liz. And as you were speaking about, tapping into the heart, I want to know, in this chapter of your life, what is your heart telling you that you're going to be doing or that you need to do?
I do it every day. I asked an audience the other day, if you just had a few days to live, what would you do? And the majority of the people who had jobs said, I'll quit my job. And this is why I say, and I think one of the most important things that I say, live your life the way that you want to leave your life. If I knew that I had a few days to live, I would do more interviews. I would do more webinars, more Zooms. I would speak more often. I'd look for ways in which I could reach more people, because I'm living my life the way that I want to leave my life. I'm being true to me. I laugh a lot because I'm happy. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. I'm free to choose how this gift of life, life is God's gift to us, and how we live our lives is our gift to God. I'm free to choose to operate outside of the culture, outside of what's expected of me. I'm free to choose how I'm going to respond to things rather than react to things. I'm free to seek ye this day whom ye shall serve, the highest that's in me or the lowest that's in me. I'm free to stand on the knowing. I'll keep thee in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, not on the fourth stage cancer that somebody with a white jacket and a stethoscope around their neck. I'm free to focus on the reality that doctors determine the diagnosis, but God determines the prognosis. And when I left Cancer Centers of America, I know that this battle, this fight that I'm in, life is a fight for territory. And once you start fighting for what you want, peace of mind, good health, living a life of contribution, once you start fighting for that, what you don't want, anxiety, fear, hopelessness will take over. We always have a choice. That's not taken away from us. We have to give it away, regardless of our situation. That's why Paul said, count it all joy, all of it. All things work together for good for those who love God. Doesn't mean that all of it will feel good. Every day is not a good day, but there's some good, Candice, in every day. And I look for it. And if it's not there, I create it, because I'm made in the likeness and image of God. And I'm a co-creator with God. I believe what Abraham Lincoln said, that the future belonged to those who created. Oh, you bring the best out of me. Come on, bring it. I'm coming for you.
Oh my goodness, Liz, I absolutely love this. And, there's so many incredible high achievers that mention you as their coach, their mentor, their teacher. Some of the best speakers that are coming up today, Eric Thomas, mentions you as one of his greatest teachers. How does that feel, Liz, when you look and you see your legacy and you see the transformation you're making in people's lives?
It's humbling. I don't take for granted for that. It's humbling because somebody, Mr. Leroy Washington, Mike Williams, who wrote the book, The Road to Your Best Stuff. Mr. Washington was a speech and drama instructor who said to Mr. Brown, develop your communication skills, because once you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. He's spoken to my life and said, someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. I was labeled educable, mental retarded, and he disrupted the story that I believed about myself, that I bought into from life. He disrupted that. And because of that impact he had on my life, I have been inspired to do for others what he did for me. And Mike Williams, who said, Brownie, you're more than a disc jockey. At that time, I was LB, Triple P, Les Brown, your platter playing Papa. There are none before me, there will be none after me. Therefore, that makes me the one and only. Young and single and love to mingle, certified, bona fide, indubitably qualified to bring you satisfaction and a whole lot of action. Bam! He's gone. I had to kill him off. I was pre-saved. And this Les Brown, he saw this Les Brown before I saw him. And that's the value of having a coach, because as a result of that relationship, I became a community activist. Because of that relationship, I became a state legislator, elected 3 terms. Because of that relationship that still exists to this day after 52 years. There are people who know my name and my voice, and people whose lives that I've touched and been able to make a difference in life, because he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself.
Wow. I absolutely just love that, Les. And, you know, you've spoken a lot about, you know, the mental state that we have to embody and, you know, being mentored, being coached, being in stillness. But when you have been in moments of being really tested and you felt as though, you know, the whole world is coming against you, Les, do you still maintain those principles, or do you lose your cool sometimes?
I am so glad you asked that question. One of the things that I share and I coach people, ask for help. We all have our moments in the Garden of Gethsemane. Ask for help, not because you're weak. Most people won't ask for help because of pride. Pride cometh before a fall. Because of ego. Ego to me means edging God out. Ask for help, not because you're weak, but because you want to remain strong. And ask for help, and don't stop until you get it. All of us have had life knock us senseless, where we didn't even know what day it was. We forgot our name because life just overwhelmed us. We all have those kinds of moments. But there are people around us that can help us get through. There are people that can speak to us when we can't hear our own voice, that can remind us that we're more than conquerors, that God has not left us. He's still with us. Sometimes I have friends that I call and ask, would you pray for me, please? People that I've inspired, people that I've motivated and came to my rescue because I got sucker punched by life. And I needed some help to get me back on my feet. Can you help me? Remind me that I'm the motivator, because life jumped on me and said, are you the motivator? No, somebody lied on me. Oh, this thing, Candice, is more than a notion. You hear me? Oh my goodness. Wow. yes, it made me cry. Look at you. You crying. Guess what, motivator? What this is? What? The world's smallest violin. Polo ting. Oh, I'm human. And sometimes it gets me. But I don't stay long. I have this thing, if life knocks you down, try and land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. And I just keep getting back up.
Oh, Liz, I love it. And, speaking on the topic, you've lived such an incredible life. Are there any things that you look back over your life and regret?
Yes, that I did not believe in myself sooner. I regret that, because I spent years believing in the vision, that limited vision, the culture. See, whoever you're around between the ages of 0 and 5, according to Martin Seligman in the book called Learned Optimism, between 0 and 5, we develop a word in our heart. That word is either yes or that word is no. So I came up in a culture, Candice, where they used to have signs on Miami Beach that said Jews, dogs, and coloreds not allowed. I came up in a culture that you were not allowed to look a white person in the eyes. I came up in a culture that for over 300 years, they had laws that said a black man has no rights in which a white man has to respect. I came up in a culture for 300 years that if you were black, got caught learning how to read, that was a capital offense. They would hang you. Came up in a culture where over 3,000 black men were lynched for brushing up against a horse of a white man. Came up in a culture that my grandmother, that I just discovered, taught herself to read by reading the papers that were used to insulate the cabin that she lived in and worked for a white family. But she had as an article about her read, she had a hunger to learn. And they have the Beulah Rucker Museum in Gainesville, Florida. I just discovered that last year at 76. And she was a speaker. And my birth mother, Dorothy Rucker, was a motivational speaker. And she raised 2 of my brothers that I did not know. And none of them are like her. And they look at me and their eyes get teary and say, my God, you never saw her and you're just like her. How do you explain that? And I say, look at God. I don't know. Maybe that's why he said, lean not unto thine own understanding. We all have it. All of us are born the same way, dumb, naked, and speechless. But you've got to focus it. You got to put effort in it, and you got to work it. Commit thy works unto the Lord, of thy thoughts shall be established. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. And I'm being directed. I'm committed. I chose to live a God-guided life. Don't come for me. Don't come for me, because I'm not the one.
Oh, no one is coming for you, Liz Brown. No one's coming unless you send for them. Oh my goodness, Liz. We're nearing the end of our interview, but before we do, you kept speaking about, giving people a clean slate. What does that mean to you?
Look at your life and ask this question. What kind of person am I becoming? Because of the relationships that I have, because of the place where I am, the circumstances where I am right now. Does this bring the best out of me? Does this challenge me? Is it pushing me forward? The relationships that I have. Am I growing mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, financially? This life that I'm now living, is it the best in me? Simba, you're more than that which you have become. Am I becoming that which God placed in me? I'm made in the likeness and image of God. It doesn't get any better than that. I've been given authority and dominion over everything on the face of the earth. Wow. Whoa. But we will never, Candice, exercise authority and dominion over our lives until we break the lie, until we exercise authority and dominion over what we are not. Most of us go through life living a lie. That's not us.
Wow. Wow, wow. I think a lot of people are going to need to digest that, Les.
I'll wait.
Oh my goodness, Les. I've got two final questions for you. The first one is, what does real success mean to you?
Living a life as you, a life of service, and committing yourself to leave the world in better shape than how you found it, making your life a gift to the world. Next question, please.
Love it. And the final question is, what is something about Les Brown that we will not find on Google?
That I'm a big kid. I'm a big kid. I'm mischievous. And I have this mischievous part of myself that most people will never begin to measure. Let me give you an example. I saw this presentation I gave to Procter & Gamble, and I didn't have a PowerPoint presentation, and everybody there, they were all PhDs and MDs, and it was a $600,000 contract. And when I walked in the room, they said, "Mr. Brown, where's your PowerPoint presentation?" I said, "I am the PowerPoint." And they gasped. And I did my presentation. And before I left, the man who was conducting it said, "Mr. Brown, can you come back, sir?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "I never thought I would see you again." He said, "My mother saw you in an airport." He said, "I was around 5 or 6 years old. And at that time, you were married to the singer Gladys Knight, who did the recording, Midnight Train to Georgia. And she was so glad to meet you, and she asked you for your autograph. And then you asked her, 'Who is this little man with you?' And she said, 'He's my son.' And you kneeled down and you got close to me and you said, 'Whoa, I see greatness in his eyes.' And you looked up at my mother and said, 'Oh, he's going to make you proud. I see greatness in his eyes. Come closer.' 'Yes, it's there.' 'Oh, you're going to make your mother so proud.' And he said, it was not just that. When you stood up and walked away, and my mother was looking the other direction, talking to people, saying, 'That's Les Brown?' And she was saying, 'Yes.' She said, 'You looked at me and I was watching you, and you saw me watching you, and you wiggled your knees. You just shook your knees together.' And I said, 'Mama, look at him. Look what he's doing with his knees, like a little kid.' And she said, 'He didn't do that. And you were walking straight.' And he said, 'I'll never forget what you did. And like, you were a big kid. I could see your knees side. You did your knees.' And I did it again in a meeting. And he said, 'Oh my God, you got the contract.'" I mean, he remembered me doing my knees, shaking my knees together, making a gesture that kids would laugh at. He said, "You made me laugh that day. I'll never forget. And you made me feel special." One of the things I teach my speakers, who you are when you don't have the microphone, and how you treat people that most people don't consider important says a lot about your character. That day was an unforgettable day for me. I'll never forget your kneeling down, looking me in the eyes. Let me show you where I got that from. When a group of people gathered to stone a prostitute, Jesus came upon them and they said, he kneeled down and looked her in the eyes. He didn't talk down to her. He kneeled down and looked her in the eye and said, go and sin no more. That said a lot to me, that he didn't look down on her because they said she was a prostitute. He kneeled down to look her in the eyes, to recognize the divinity in her, and said, go and sin no more. So when I see children, rather than look down to them, I kneel down and have conversations with them, and they won't forget it. Because most people talk and don't even acknowledge that they're there.
Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness, Les Brown. It has been a tremendous privilege for me to spend this time with you. Thank you so much for being on the Real Success Show.
I appreciate your inviting me, and I want you to know I'm ready to put a ring on it. Bye for now.
That was an incredible conversation. I hope you loved it as much as I did. Be sure to comment with what stood out for you. As always, it has been my greatest privilege to serve you this week, and I look forward to doing it again next week.